Hello, everyone out there in the world on this very, very absolutely normal Wednesday. We hope you're keeping well. We're Telling Tales. We make dark, atmospheric, tabletop role-playing live streams here for you on the internet. That's what this is. You're watching it now. This stream will be aided and abetted hugely by John, our stream manager, who, if he pops on for a second, you'll be able to recognize should he come in and tell us the bombs are dropping or something. Hi, John. How's it going?
I'm doing good. It's optimistic of you to think I will have that much forewarning, but
Sure. Yeah, John will be managing chat, throwing images up on the screen, shuffling cams around and stuff like that, and generally being indispensable here. So thank you, John. Let's kick him to the curb like a discarded dog. Weird. And let's talk. Let's get all the promo nonsense out of the way. There's a bunch of links down below. We've got social media. It's usually Telling Tales RP, but if in doubt, you could always check. There's a link to our YouTube where all our VODs are stored. There's a link to our Patreon should you want to support us that way. There's some nice treats on there and more inbound. Yeah, I think that's it. We also run a stream every Tuesday evening at 8 o'clock GMT where we run Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. It's called London Ascendant, and that's great too. Why not check that out? But without any further ado, we're playing Symbaroum tonight, the dark fantasy game from Fria Ligan. And let's bring on our players and talk about what happened last week as the adventurers make their way towards the Tomb of Dying Dreams. So first, let's introduce Mike. Mike plays Anton, our resident Theurg of Prios, healer, intimidator of horrible abominations, and so much else besides. Mike, how are you, and what did you get up to last week?
I'm absolutely fine, and here's what we did. So the party arrived at an Ordo Magica outpost along the river, not too far away from our intended destination. And the outpost was kind of empty and deserted, except for some wild beasts called meerkats, which set about us and had a bit of a scrap, and they did us a bit of damage, but we succeeded. And then inside the main building of the outpost, we found a couple of Ordo Magica sort of watch people, I guess you'd call them. Outpost people who had taken refuge from the meerkats, and they introduced themselves, I think, as Marla and Plendel.
Spot on.
Something like that, yeah. And they informed us, unfortunately, that they'd sort of lost contact with the main Ordo Magica sort of headquarters in that area, which is not too far away. And yeah, there'd also been some other sort of strange goings on. So not entirely rosy.
No, odd noises, which had and the kind of 2 weeks of isolation there had freaked them out to the point where I think it's safe to say at least one of them is kind of very much in danger of an imminent nervous breakdown. So yeah, fun stuff. As for what came next, let's bring on Chris, our next player, who plays Steo, guardsman, sometime mercenary, sometime soldier, and permanent curmudgeon. Hi, Chris.
Hi, how's it going?
Wonderfully.
So, we decided to do a scouting recce onto the main encampment for the Ordo Magica, which was in a deserted tower, or at least we were told it was in a ruined tower. And there had been a decent path cut by the foresight of the wizards. So we made our way along it after taking a night's rest, and discovered on our way that several tracts of land, some 50 paces across, if memory serves, had been blasted free of all life and left as kind of grey, threatening, foreshadowing death avenues. We began to work, myself being paranoid and analytical, and us being in possession of a decent map of the environment, began to try and look and see if there was a pattern to how these lands were carved out or any point of origin.
I think you're sorry to interrupt you, Chris. You may be slightly muffled. You might be covering your mic slightly or something.
Oh, Is that any better?
I don't know. Carry on.
That's better. Let me carry on. So we could not find any discernible pattern to these tracks of dead land.
Sorry, Chris. That's still muffled for us. Do you mind turning your mic off and on again, or something like that? Just muting and unmuting or something. Might fix it. Sorry, folks.
I blew some crumbs off. Is that any better?
There we go. That is indeed. Wow. It was the crumbs all along.
Speaking of crumbs all along, we made our way all along the path and finally came upon the keep itself and proceeded to Assassin's Creed our way into it.
Absolutely. The only correction I'd make to Chris's, or augmentation I'd make to Chris's recollection there, not quite all life was blasted off those paths. There were small purple lily flowers that were dotted around every so often, still remaining. But what happened to that keep? Well, let's bring on Sam, our next player, who plays Ascarai, our resident ranger and changeling, and any combination of those two that sounds like fun wordplay. Hi, Sam.
Hello. It was an interesting keep, being run by a small goblin clan, a goblin clan. Tribe. I don't know which they find most offensive. Called the Buck-2 goblins. And we kind of I got slightly shot by accident, but then they were mostly friendly. They kind of let us into the main tower where they had kind of holed up. And as far as I recall, they basically said to us, almost everyone is dead of the humans, but there's one person alive who has gone insane.
Mm-hmm.
This small compound is now theirs. We can stay here, but it's theirs, and we should try to change that, basically.
Or just for I think the offer wasn't precisely made to stay, but certainly that you're not immediately about to be attacked.
Okay.
And I believe it ended with the king of this, or chieftain or ruler of this tribe, certainly seemed to consider himself a king, being as he introduced himself to you as Gabba Big Paw and said that you were welcome to his kingdom. So we have one more player who wasn't in attendance last week, so she doesn't have to do a recap because that would be mean. It's Elle, who plays Ephanea, resident big barbarian lady and, enemy slicer.
Most definitely enemy slicer, potentially friend slicer if I continue to use my ridiculous sword of broken dreams. And
moreover, slicer and dicer.
It's true. Also, mild PTSD from the last, if I remember, the last session that I was a part of, in which I suddenly was forced to endure thousands of years worth of evil memories.
Yeah, so, I kind of glossed over that last week while playing Ephanea. She basically did a kind of the most generic Ephanea imaginable, that she just cut things in half and occasionally talk some smack. And that was about it. So
yeah, that's basically it. Just kind of go up to people, call them out on their shit, and if it's like, hey, do you want to stealth in here? Be like, no.
No.
Don't be stupid.
No, I have a big magic sword that's taking over my brain. So let's crack on into it. You're still in the keep with Gabba Big Paw and the rest of the Buck-2 tribe. And you know what? Now that you've grasped the layout of this place, let's whack a map up there to see just how much it differs from your conception of these things. On there where you see labeled 1, that's the gatehouse into the enclosure. 3 is that kind of large supply building looking thing that I don't think you've been in yet or looked in. 2A is the gatehouse into the keep. 2B is the keep. And 2C is the mysterious extra room that has a curtain drawn over it. And that's basically where you are, and you're in the keep there. So you're all still stood there facing Gabba Big Paw. Earthons is with you, and he's translating. Obviously, being a goblin, he's the best suited to do this. So yeah, Gabba Big Paws welcome you to his kingdom. There is a slightly mysterious-looking female goblin next to him who's in all kind of, I guess, what to many of your eyes will be kind of witch-like apparel, right? Sort of almost similar to how the barbarian witches dress, but definitely different. Kind of a broadly shamanic, druidic look, right? Yeah, off you go. Gabba Big Paws waiting.
Well,
we're left speechless at the sight of Gabba Big Paw.
He's an imposing goblin.
I will ask Earthons, can they tell us where the survivor is?
The Gabba and the goblin woman kind of lean and confer a bit in hushed tones between themselves before Gabba leans forward and proclaims something in his unfamiliar to your ears sounding dialect. And Earthons turns and says, he asks if we would like to barter for access to the surviving Tallling.
I could spare some rations, I suppose.
Yeah, it depends what they'll value.
He turns back and enters into what seems like a fairly prolonged debate with Gabba Big Paw before turning back a good couple of minutes later, honestly, and saying, okay, he wanted to see what we would offer, but he's really only after one thing. They want weapons.
Well, we could arrange that, and that would give us an excuse to head back to the slightly more secure camp tonight.
Yes, of course. That had a storage room with a bunch of somewhat extraneous to you weapons stored in it.
Yeah, I think we could. I think we could defend that if the Ordo Magica haul us up.
Agreed. For access to one of theirs.
Earthons relays this back to Gabba Big Paw. Gabba looks quite surprised. He was obviously expecting you to kind of turn down this offer or admit that you couldn't pay it or some such. And after a while, again, of back and forth with Earthons turns and says, yes, I don't think he was expecting us to agree to this, but he seems fairly happy.
Good. Well, you know me, I'm always generous when I'm bartering with other people's goods.
He kind of, again, they're kind of going back and forth. And after a while, Earthons says, there are some rules before the trade goes ahead. Primarily, we're not allowed in here.
Here being the tower or the whole...
The tower.
So
He has also warned us about, well, he's referred to it as a cursed hut outside.
that must be the storage outbuilding then. Actually, can I turn to one of... Because we brought the two apprentices with us, didn't we?
And they're both looking quite, somewhat intimidated by the situation. The goblins still have bows drawn, but not kind of pointed at you,
So it was Erdvik was the one who was less broken, yeah?
I don't know who Erdvik is, but the less broken one was Marla.
Okay,
and the other one was
sorry.
Plendel.
Yes. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong bit. So I'll turn to Mahler and get more use out of him while he's still seeing. Her, sorry.
It's okay.
On that outbuilding, Mallard, is there mechanisms by which it could have been warded to prevent people breaking into it? I'm just concerned because they're referring to it as cursed, and that's got me nervous.
She shakes her head and says, well, I mean, I haven't been to this, in the main encampment in weeks, but No, it's just an outbuilding.
Okay, so that's a concern then, because I really wanted to go and check that place out.
Alphonse, are they telling us we can't enter that building, or that we shouldn't because it's there?
Irfan shakes his head and says, they're scared to go in. That's all he's saying.
Okay.
Maybe we could still check it out.
Can we ask Gabba Big Paw about what happened to his tribe? Because I think there was some mention of them being driven out from underground, and I would be interested to know more about that.
Absolutely. Irfan's turns and talks for a good 5 minutes or so with Gabba Big Paw before turning back, and he kind of shakes his head and says, I'll be honest, I'm struggling to understand a lot of this. He says they came from their tunnels, and when they came to the surface, they were attacked by some huge white creature. And it ate half their tribe. And they fled, and now they're here.
Does that have
Crown for a
anything
head?
to do with the kind of dead, scorched earth that we've been passing through?
I don't think so. Not at least not from what he seemed to say.
Very good. Another threat.
Crown for a head, do you think? Should we press the issue, or should we just assume it is?
Irfan shrugs and says, honestly, I'm not sure I'll be able to get more detail out of him than that. I just don't understand the nuances of the dialect.
No, that's fair. You're out of your depth. We all are.
Perhaps they came from the sinkhole.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. It was raining, wasn't it? It was clear today, wasn't it?
It had cleared today, yeah. It rained all through yesterday and overnight.
So, Irfan, but when he was mentioning, like, we're not allowed in here, does that mean that after we meet this guy, we're non grata in the tower?
Irfan shrugs and says, I don't know, honestly. I don't think they'll want us to stay here.
Okay. Well, look, that's 2 birds with 1 stone. We'll go back and sleep in the building tonight, return with the weapons tomorrow.
Irfan nods, relays this to the chief. Again, he confers at some length with the goblin woman at his side, and he kind of speaks. Irfan nods and says, okay, that's it until we have the weapons then.
Do the Auto Magica apprentices have any weapons on them?
Yeah, I believe they took 2 swords from that weapon supply at the outpost, I think. Ascarai insisted that they take them.
Yeah, I just
Is there any way that we could convince the goblins that for the 2 swords we could at least see the person that they are talking about, to know that, like, you know, they exist, and to know that they're definitely there and that the goblins do have them, and then we can speak to them in greater detail once we return with the rest of the weapons?
Irfan's kind of shrugs, turns, and talks, and Gabba Big Paw. I mean, even you don't know his language even remotely, but he clearly is agreeing, with kind of quite avaricious eyes looking at the swords. Yeah.
Okay. One thing just sprung to mind, Irfan, and I'm sorry for abusing you like this. Can we add to this trade some kind of pact of non-aggression, so we don't have to worry about them turning their weapons on us? In return, of course, we won't be hurting them.
Irfan relays this, and after a few minutes turns back and says, the Abuktu tribe says that if we carry out this trade, as far as they're concerned, we have done them no harm. They will do us no harm, as long as we stay clear of this Gabba's kingdom, without, arranging to come in.
Okay. That's good. Those are terms. Everyone feel good about that? At least as good as can be expected in this place?
Yes. I'm slightly concerned about this survivor. Whether I don't think we can leave them here. I don't know if they're planning to release them to us or just let us talk to them.
They're not going to be. I can't imagine we'll get too much use out of them. This forest has a way of messing with people's heads.
How many goblins are there, out of interest?
I think I said there were 8 goblins. Yes, there are 8 goblins.
So yeah, I'm gonna look around and just say, look, worst comes to worst, if they don't give us the survivor willingly, they don't have weapons until we give them. We could easily take them.
Let's any friend is better than any enemy. Let's keep that on the back burner for now, especially in this forest.
Yeah, I'm just thinking the Ordo Magica's priority was to recover their people if possible.
The goblins seem very clear that now that the negotiation is done, that you clear out. So they kind of they escort you out of that big front doorway that's been built onto the front of the keep, and kind of close the doors behind you. You can kind of see their eyes kind of like peering out through those, the holes in the wall towards you, but they're not kind of being aggressive towards you anyway.
Do we want to? We'll definitely be able to make it back before nightfall at this stage, yeah.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Do you want to take a look at this cursed hut? At least figure out if there's anything worth salvaging.
Seems as good a time as any.
Okay, weapons ready, I suppose. Let's go and take a look.
Okay, so this big hut is, as I say, it's part of this enclosure. It's actually, it's bigger than the kind of outpost hut right on the river's edge, so it's not insignificant in size. And as you stride towards it, are you kind of taking any particular precautions of any kind after the warning, or are you just kind of boldly walking kind of in a prepared fashion forward?
That's great. Do you want to go wide, Ascarai?
I guess I can.
It's broad daylight. I don't know if there's much value in it, but
yeah, there are kind of no sort of windows or anything like that in the side of it. It's just a rough hut, right? But then there's just kind of a double door, like a barn doorway, on the side you are facing now, which is one of the longer sides.
You don't have any prayers to remove curses, do you, Anton?
No. Just out of character for a second, I could perform like a ritual to see if to recognize I could interpret what ritual has been used on the scene by investigating symbols and components and things like that, but I suspect that that's not going to really apply in the situation.
Well, yeah.
I might try to cast my blessed shield. Just because I want to succeed at doing that once in this campaign. That would be nice.
I think like that the ritual that you mentioned to basically detect other rituals, right? Is that the idea of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
Anton even has any thought that might have happened, it could be a good idea to do.
Yeah. Okay. I'll try that.
Was the idea that Ascarai is taking kind of scout round it?
Yeah, I'll head around the side or the back.
Sure.
Whatever accessible.
Sure. Okay. Well, while those two are kind of doing that, I'm going to assume, correct me if I'm wrong, that Ephinair and Steo are kind of standing there, sort of, taking guard, sort of thing, while that happens.
I'm going to go and actually kind of take another look at the gatehouse as well, while the first part of this goes ahead.
Okay.
We'll pop right back.
Okay, Ephinair?
Yeah, I'm gonna be kind of guarding keeping an eye on what's going on
Sure.
with Anton doing this. I'm not as close to it as I would have been before my experience in the last session I had, because I'm a little bit wary now of anything that's cursed.
Yeah, spooksy places.
Spooksy places. I just don't like them. They're tricksy and evil, and it's just not a good time.
Sure. So let's start with Ascarite. Why don't you give me a? I take it you're trying to be stealthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead and give me a discreet roll then.
Okay, I need a 13. I got an 8. Right.
Absolutely fine. So go ahead. Yeah, you circle the whole place. It's all within the enclosure, so you feel fairly comfortable doing so. Honestly, you don't notice much. You certainly don't kind of get any sense of immediate danger. The only thing you see is there is a kind of broad strip, because the vegetation around here in this enclosure is just grass, right? Just kind of grass and sort of very kind of bracken and underbrush, but it's all been kind of tamped, either cut down or tamped down. And basically, the only thing you notice is two swathes of grey desiccation. That basically there's a swath that runs from the enclosure wall over this building, or seems to run through the building and then over towards the keep.
Okay. So it's just in the middle of a path of death.
That's right.
Okay.
That's a good sign.
Yeah, I will definitely relay that back to Anton and Ephanea. It's just doesn't bode well, but I can't think what might be in there that would still be there.
I'm loath to mess with any more dark forces than we already have done on this journey, but it's what we're getting paid to do. This must be connected to, well, it's probably connected to whatever's happened to these poor souls, and I gesture back to the broken Ordo apprentices.
Sure. Yeah. So Anton, I'm assuming you have to make some kind of roll for this ritual.
I've been looking at it, and the wording on it is so vague, that I actually don't know if that's quite what this does. It says the ritual, in the generic text on the ritualist, it says a ritualist ability makes it possible for the character to recognize what ritual has been performed by examining symbols and components remaining on the scene. But
so it's not actually a ritual. It's more that you can recognize. You don't have to carry out a ritual to find out about rituals. You're just because you know about rituals.
I think so, but then under novice, it just says the character has learned to perform one ritual.
Sure.
And it's just that's the detail there. So it doesn't specifically mention that I roll anything.
Sure, that's absolutely fine. But generally speaking, I'm going to treat it like I do most of the things. If you're doing something because that applies, I tend to just find an appropriate attribute and do it. So why don't you give me a cunning roll to see if Anton can kind of pick up on anything, having had his nerves pinched by the mention of curses and the like.
Yeah, I rolled an 18, so I don't make it.
Okay. Yeah, you have no idea. You wouldn't even know where to start looking in such a, generally relatively unordered environment of the underbrush and So you got no idea.
I'll returning from my sojourn to the gate tower. I'll be like, "What's the We're going to try and go in."
May as well. We figure that it's going to be dangerous, but it could be related to what we're being paid to do. So if a job's worth doing, you might as well do it well, right? Besides, we've always got this, and I'll pat. I do, Black Gift, which is on my back, which Matt loves. The correct way to carry a sword.
Absolutely.
So there was one big door into this building then, was there?
Yeah, one kind of like double barn door. One double door. No, that does work. It's fine.
And no windows. That's correct.
No, yeah, no windows, no gaps. You know, it's something that's been built up in a hurry, so it's not exactly, you know, a fancy construction.
So my suggestion is that myself and Ascarai take one side each of the door, and we slowly pull them back. And Effie, you stand front and center.
Well, Effie's good, but my armor's better. I'll go first.
Can't argue with that.
Sounds like
I
a
will
plan.
follow closely behind Steel, though.
Fair
Okay,
enough.
and we're not charging in. Like, we don't know what's in here. It might be a friend. I doubt it.
Sure.
Let's make scary friends.
So
I've only got one scary friend, Effie. I'm fine.
So I think as you say, so Anton and Ascar are either side and are just going to push these doors open, probably with an alarming creak, while Steel and Effie kind of stand ready. Sure. Push them open. There's an alarming creak. And it takes a while for your eyes to adjust because there's obviously no light inside there until daylight floods inside the place. And you see what looks like a largish storage room with fairly full shelves of various things, food, equipment, and the like. With no, there's no threat. There's nothing in there.
Any weapons there?
Who would you say? Hold your hand up for me if you are now moving from kind of the mindset of to actually like sort of visually inspecting the place. Yeah. Anyone who's doing that, I could have just said, I don't know why I asked for the hands up. Give me a vigilant roll at -2, because obviously it's quite dark in there.
No.
Not even close.
You just give me 1 second. I've forgotten everything. So my vigilant is 10, so -2 I'd have to hit an 8, and
Correct.
I rolled a 7. So I make it.
In that case, Ephenea, you notice that all kind of, because this place hasn't had, like floorboards put down or anything, it's just directly onto the grass. All the grass underneath is grey and withered, and a lot, like directly opposite you, there looks to be like some fresh kind of fruit and vegetables have been stored there, and they all look grey, crumbling, pitted. Whatever carved, those big paths through the forest seems to have gone through here, and you almost feel as you stand in the doorway peering in an odd slight, it could be your imagination, but a slight just wash of cold coming off from the inside.
Nope. So I'll kind of make my way out of the hut pretty hastily, but like reversing so that I'm still keeping like a direct eye on whatever is actually in the hut.
Sure.
And I'm just going to call the others that whatever blight has made its way through the rest of the forest has definitely been in here, and mention that whatever it is may possibly still be lingering, and say that mention that I felt the cold, and again relate it back to I've forgotten the name of the thing we were fighting a couple of sessions ago, but that was also
that also did give you a sense of cold. Yes, the well, I don't think we. Well, no, I did mention it. Omalkun, I believe, is what the treasure hunters called it. So yeah,
I'm going to just relay all that basically.
Okay. Question is, do I stay or do I go? Have I got a lamp or a lantern or a?
I don't think you've got a lamp or a lantern, but I think we said that you had some wrapped torches.
Yeah.
So with a little application of some lamp oil and flint and tinder, you could definitely go in there with a torch. Yeah. You
Yeah,
think you'd have to look around the kind of back area of it,
yeah,
certainly.
under the auspices of at least getting another roll or two, I'm going to light up and take a closer look.
Okay. Is anyone going in, Miss Tia?
I will very cautiously follow Theo.
Sure.
And I will follow behind Ascarai, so he's like sandwiched between us.
I like the idea that giant rabbit is Black Gift.
Oh, it's obviously out of character, but when I lean back, I need like a pillow, and my pillows are very thin, so my giant rabbit is a very good
Giant
pillow.
rabbit time, absolutely. So, Steo, Ascarai, you take a few steps inside this shed. Inside, you yourselves can feel that odd cold. Although it's kind of cold that feels to be, you know when you walk into a cold room and you can almost feel it kind of the air mixing as you go in. You feel the cold rushing out, the warmth coming in. You feel like that, like somehow having the doors closed on this here made it colder than it should perhaps have been. You immediately notice the kind of grey, lifeless vegetation on the floor. All the food storage is all the same. There was cured meats, fruits, vegetables, cheeses. They're all like no sane human would try and eat them. They look mummified. However, as you take a few steps in, you see that there is quite a trove of other equipment here. Very general equipment that one might need for this kind of the kind of thing they're here for. There are ropes, there are grappling hooks, shovels, kind of packs, general things you might need for. There are lamps and lanterns, like wrapped torches, stuff like this. It's definitely a bit of a trove of supplies in terms of, tomb delving, I suppose. And notably, none of the sort of it doesn't seem to be really affected in the same way as kind of the food and the vegetation underfoot. So there's that.
Okay. I'll become more at ease, I suppose, because of the light more than anything, and kind of move in. I do want to grab a couple of grappling hooks.
I'm going to kind of tell him to stop before he does, because
stop.
I'm just going to like, look, I am willing to rush in more than most, but after everything that's happened over these past few seasons, I am reluctant to take something from an area like this. Everything else is dead. It seems very odd to me that this would be untouched. And besides, look at what happened last time. Some treasure hunters grabbed something innocuous. I don't know why FNA knows the word innocuous.
Okay.
They ended up dead.
I
Very
agree.
dead.
Clearly, some curse has passed through here, and who can say whether it lingers on these tools and things?
We could tell the goblins that there's tools.
Use the goblins as guinea pigs.
Okay, look, fair enough. We don't need it today anyway. We'll see how desperate we get for a grapple later on. But
Erfons has followed, who I remembered, has followed you inside Steo and Ascarai, is kind of he's leaning over and looking at the the grappling hook that you were going to pick up before FNA warned you away, and he kind of looks over, sort of sniffs it a bit, and then kind of lifts up gently, kind of prods it with the hilt of his sword, and says, "I don't know. I understand what you're saying, Effie, but I feel like if we don't want to take anything from the tombs, why are we even here in the first place?"
Well, we're not here to take anything from the tombs. We're here for the Order Magica to find out what happened to the people who took things from the tombs.
They're all dead.
Earthons, I won't even describe the look Earthons shoots you, Anton. I will simply act it out.
I will actually get a laugh out of Theo. It's like, look, these will all still be here tomorrow, and we're back in the area yesterday. Let's sleep on it before we touch any cursed rope, superstition or otherwise.
Earthons shrugs and says, well, we already spent the Ordo Magica's money on most of this equipment anyway.
Yes, but that was funny, Earthons.
He nods and kind of walks out with the rest of you.
Do you want to close the door there, Anton?
Yeah, we'll secure that nice and tight. Is there some way to like properly put a bar across and lock it closed?
I don't know if you only had a rope. You do have ropes. Yeah, the best way, they've got kind of like sort of very rudimentary handles on. So you could either, there's no real planks lying around. You could go into the forest and find some dead wood and slide it through, or you could take some of your rope and secure it round. But you could do either of those things.
One moment, I wish to experiment with something. I'm basically going to go into the cautiously go back into the hut. And you said they were in like a box, right? All the things.
All the general adventuring supplies.
Yeah.
No, they're in numerous boxes and shelves. They're about half the storage thing is taken up with them. So there's a lot of different.
So I'm gonna grab like a bunch of them, and I'm gonna kind of do it with Black Gift and just like carry them, and just kind of like leave them outside of the hut. Sure. And I'm going to say, look, we've removed it from the place that it was. If anything comes to collect it, we'll know that we shouldn't have touched it. If it's still here by tomorrow morning, untouched, or the goblins have taken it, then I think we're fine to get the rest of it.
That seems like a solid plan. You definitely do think, like, I'm not telling your characters what to think, but I imagine you could suspect that the dark sickle that the Omalkun came for with the treasure hunters was probably an item of maybe more significance than like random bits of ropes and grappling hooks. But
you never know. This could be a grappling hook.
You never know. They could have been corrupted by whatever cold, desiccating presence washed through them. Absolutely.
An evil rock climber could have.
It's true.
Lost it.
The evil geologist of Symbaroum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think we might make to leave at this stage. I'm going to start kind of once the door's secured and Effie's test pile is in place.
Absolutely. And yeah, let's pop up the area map, the hand-drawn one that Marla made for the group. So just to remind us of the general area, right? So you've got the River Malgamore kind of surrounding you on all sides, but the south. You're at the headquarters there. There is a rough path to the outpost that cuts through several of those grey, destroyed swaths. You've got the sinkhole that's been mentioned a few times down to the kind of the southwest of you. You've got the tomb down to the southeast. That's everywhere that's really been mentioned.
So I want have I've forgotten his name, have Mahler's attention and point at this and go, this little outcrop of rock to the east of the headquarters building, what was that? Anything? Do you know what came back from there?
She shakes her head and says, no, that was just I just idly doodled this map and saw there was a tower of stone in that direction. That was it.
Okay. Not worth 6 hours walk to go and figure it out, though. No, okay.
How long would it take us to reach the tomb from here, do you think?
She shrugs and says, I think this map was somewhat accurate. I think I've already said to disregard the travel distance indicator, right?
Yeah.
Because it completely jars with the Games Master map that the book supplies for you. And it also seems weird that it's 1 day's travel from the headquarters to the tomb. She shrugs and says, I was just copying a map someone else had made here, but I think it's maybe double the distance from the outpost to the headquarters, so 4 hours through the forest. We may make better time if there's more, well... her gaze kind of lingers on the, like the nearby, the closest swath of devastation.
Yeah.
I'm erring towards heading back to the outpost for the evening. I know it's like literally the afternoon, but I don't want to start traipsing into the deep forest toward the end of a day.
I agree, although I think the fewer days we can spend in this place generally, the better. I don't think we should make good time of the light while we have it. But I agree, it's probably too much to visit the tomb today.
Okay, well, let's head back, pick out what weapons we're going to give to these friends, and see what the strategy is for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. I didn't mention it at the time, but as well, obviously, like Marla and Plendel are now without swords because you passed them over to. Or did you? No, because you didn't see him. Did we just ignore that after we made that
We
deal?
just ignored that.
I think we straight up ignored that after we made that deal.
God.
All right.
By we, you mean you, Matt. You're
Yes,
the GM.
me completely. Yes, we're a team, Elle. So yeah, well, let's just retcon that didn't exist then, shall we? Because otherwise we have to wind back in time to do a scene, and that's far more awkward. Yeah, which means they got their swords. Hooray!
Excellent.
So yeah, so I take it you're making your way back to the outpost then. Nothing happens on your way back. There are no kind of extra, areas of grey horribleness or anything like that. It's an uneventful trip, and you can sense kind of Plendel's relief mounting as you make your way closer and closer back to the outpost. And once you're within the enclosure there, he almost kind of dashes his way back into the hut to kind of settle himself.
Just before we step away from the forest zone, I'd like to get a couple of those little purple flowers for my personal collection.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I believe Marla was picking some as well as you went through, with a kind of in a kind of curiosity. So I take it you're going and looking in this outpost for some further weaponry that you can lift and trade to the goblins. So just to reiterate what's in there. There are about 3 sets of artisan's tools. There were 2 swords. There are no longer. There's an axe, a spear, 2 bows. There were 20 arrows, but I think Ascarai took them all. And a crossbow with 20 bolts. There are 3 suits of light leather armor, and 1 suit of medium scale mail.
Well.
The armor won't fit them, right?
No.
The armor will. I mean, it won't, but at the same time, they could probably.
They could maybe do something with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they just wanted weapons anyway. So
He said weapons. Yeah. So.
the
Scale
spear.
mail better than crow armor.
No, it's equivalent, isn't it?
Standard medium. No, I think it is slightly better than crow armor, because isn't crow armor the whole thing is it's cheaper than regular medium armor, but it's more
more impeding, isn't it? More like...
Yes, I think so. I'll just do a double check. But yeah, it's regular scale mail. Why are you thinking of lifting that, Elle?
Absolutely.
Okay, so here's what it is. So normal medium armor, they provide the same amount of protection, so 1d6. But crow armor, normal medium armor, it has a -3 on your defense, but crow armor has cumbersome, which I believe adds -4. So yeah, if you want to swap it for your crow armor, you're more than welcome to. All armor magically fits everyone in this.
Excellent. Yes, absolutely. I'm going to take this upgrade, armor upgrade, because it's a lot cheaper than buying it.
A lot cheaper.
And I'm a miser.
That's good. Yeah, so you can take the crow armor, so your defense can go up by 1.
Fantastic.
So
not the crow armor, the medium armor, scale mail. That's what you got.
So what do we reckon? Spear, the axe, they've got the 2 swords already. Throw in a set of armor because they're such good customers. Do you want to toss them a bow?
I would say they haven't got the swords already because you didn't trade them in because we
Okay.
retconned, but yeah.
My concern with this is if they're not planning to release this prisoner to us, we have to get them out. It's the whole reason we're here. And we're about to give them a load of good weapons and armor.
Okay.
Also, I don't know what we plan on saying to Marlowe and Plendel, but we don't want to leave them completely weaponless. And I don't see them coming with us for the rest of this journey. So we need to give them some weaponry and security so that they can make their way back to safety as well. And maybe we part ways tonight. Maybe tomorrow morning we go back to the tower and they stay here. We shouldn't leave them empty-handed, though.
All good points. Do I recall seeing any weapons in the cursed barn?
No, there weren't any.
Okay. Look, at the end of the day, assuming the 2 apprentices aren't in earshot right now.
Yeah, that they kind of Marla's followed Plendel into the main building of the outpost to presumably comfort him and make sure he's okay, and the rest of you are gathered around this kind of outdoor rough weapon shack.
Look, I might be a bit of a I might be a bit set in my ways, but I don't rate giving weapons to people who haven't been trained in them. We can take one of the swords and maybe... I'll tell you what, actually, the crossbow. That would make sense to give to an Ambrian rather than a goblin. Plus, they'd have...
It is an Ambrian-sized crossbow, for sure.
I mean, in all honesty, you saw the goblins' eyes light up when they spied the swords on the apprentices. It looks like they'd be happy with not very much, and I'd be inclined to give them as little as we can.
You see, I'd be inclined to give them as much as it takes, not just to get access to this guy, but to break him out. So we need to go and say, here's the agreed deal, and here's some extra you can have if you let him go back with us.
Perhaps we bring them weapons and say they can have the armor as well if they release the prisoner.
That's cute.
Okay.
Okay, so we take one of the swords off the apprentices. We give one of them the Ambrian, the bolt thrower, and we take clear the place out.
Okay, sounds like you've got a plan. So you're going to trade a sword, an axe, and a spear, and the bow, sons, arrows to the goblins to get to see this maddened survivor, and then hopefully trade the rest of the gear, the 2 suits I think I said of light armor, and presumably Effie's crow armor as well, to them in order to try and secure being able to take that survivor with you.
Yeah. Although, before we go, I'll just go... Just one, my concern is that this guy might be too broken to safely extract from this place. I mean, we're already... Clendel's already on the edge of being beyond rescue.
We
don't want to make any promises.
Lead him to the apprentices. If he is, a wreck, we could lead him to here with Marla and tell him to stay in the outpost until we return, and then we could all go back together.
Yeah. Well, let's find out. We're making plans for this guy before we even have permission to take him. So, what are we doing? Okay, well, let's head indoors. It's starting to get cold, I imagine.
Yes, it is. So you head indoors to the outpost, and I believe you said you're spending the night there.
Yeah, I do want to kind of take a look at the map and do some strategizing as well, just before going to sleep.
Do you want to do any of that kind of out loud? Do we want to have any kind of conversation about that, or are we kind of leaping to the next morning?
Shall we? I would like to talk it through because we've options.
Sure. Let's bring up the area map again, and you folks can do your strategizing.
Okay, so given it's not going to take the whole day to get here and figure out what the lay of the land is with speaking to this guy, I say we try and make for the sinkhole tomorrow.
The sinkhole?
Yeah. I want as much information as possible before we go anywhere near anything in this forest called the tomb.
I'm inclined to agree with you on that one. There's no particular time limit. However, if we are leaving the apprentices and possibly another survivor at the outpost, I wouldn't want to add too much time onto our journey.
Maller, what's your opinion? Do you think you'd want to make a trip to the sinkhole, or would you rather stay here and bed down?
Marla kind of looks over at Plendel and says, "I think I would be capable of going with you to the sinkhole, but I also think that no one should be left here alone."
Yeah, that's a good shout. Look, okay, you two can roost here until we figure out what is going on. I'm still playing with the question mark that's floating over those stone pillars. But we would be going to do fresh archaeology on a location, and we don't really know enough about it. So maybe I'm not. Anyone got any thoughts on it?
Marla does emphasize that there is literally nothing about these other than there was some rocks there.
Maybe we could trade the rocks to goblins for broken waste.
And I don't want to be the GM to say, there is nothing important about the chicken in the cage, but there is nothing important about the chicken in the cage.
The cursed chicken in the enchanted cage.
Yes.
No, that's fine. I'll take. Steo is easily talked out of taking another 4-hour walk through less well prepared jungle.
Absolutely.
Just to look at some stones. Said it yourself, Ascari. Let's spend as little amount of time mucking around as we can. Okay, so tomorrow we go and do some bartering. We go to the sinkhole. We come back alive. How does that sound?
Aye.
We should try to leave early. It's going to be a lot of travel.
Yeah.
I hate early starts, but let's do it.
Watches tonight.
Fons is already snoring by the rough fire that Marla has set in the fireplace.
Looks like we've got a volunteer for third watch. I'll do watch with Earthons on third. Do you guys want to sort out first and second? After we arrived to this place being besieged, I don't want to risk not putting a watch on.
I'll go first.
The door can also be kind of blocked off like the apprentices had it before you arrived. And whether it's that or your presence, nothing happens overnight. And the next morning, you kind of awaken and get moving just after dawn. Marla and Plendel wish you well. Plendel kind of Marla handing the sword to Plendel and definitely taking the crossbow herself. Kind of high-strung nerves and trigger fingers do not make for a good combination. And you head out, go over to the weapon store, grab everything in there. I assume you're planning on taking the armor with you as well.
Yeah,
that's definitely quite a heavy load, but you can all carry it between you. Kind of roll up the armor and sling it on your side with rope and so forth. You trudge through the forest again for another 2 hours. Again, you don't see anything. You hear the occasional, animal scurrying around or feeding on each other in the underbrush. And then you reach the headquarters. It is exactly the same as it was yesterday. A trail of smoke comes up from the center of the keep. And yeah, everything is as you left it.
Is the gate open? Can we go
Yeah,
inside?
it's exactly as you left it. So you go in. Urfons kind of strides up to the front and calls out. There's a brief back and forth, and the goblins allow you in.
Before we go in, is F&A's test pile in location?
The box is still there.
Okay, so we'll
But
ask the goblins.
everything in it has gone.
Yeah, we'll ask the goblin. I don't care if they have taken it. If it turns out it's cursed, then their greed was their downfall. If not, we can take it.
You don't even have to ask them, as you walk in, you can see that one of the goblins on watch is busy trying to affix the grappling hook to a length of wood to use it as a kind of rudimentary bashing weapon. So yeah, they definitely took the stuff. Yeah.
I'll lean in to whoever's closest to me and just say that I think that we should also state that we left the tools outside for the goblins. That will sweeten the deal, most likely.
Oh,
Nice.
leave that to Urfons to work that into the negotiations.
Okay.
Okay.
So you go in to take another audience with Gabba Big Paw sat on his quite normal chair on top of a pile of rocks. The goblin shaman woman is next to him, and you're kind of beckoned forward and kind of stood almost ceremoniously in a very specific spot. And Gabba Big Paw waves magnanimously, and Urfons translates that he wishes to see your offering.
That's fair.
Just dump it on the floor because I'm quite tired from carrying it.
Absolutely.
We're not dumping the armor yet, however. Don't forget.
No.
Sure. Gabba Big Paw kind of leans over and sort of investigates the offerings carefully. As he does so, can you all give me it'll be a vigilant roll, but it might have a minus on it, so just hold on while I drop that on you.
No.
What am I doing here? I don't know. I can't see. Come on. There we go. Yeah, no, there is no minus. That's fine.
Excellent.
Nice.
Nice.
Right, got to roll a 10. Let's see where we're at.
I rolled a 20.
Okay.
I rolled an 8, so we're fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyone who did get it, where you're standing now, you can hear an odd kind of grunting and snuffling noise coming from underneath the floorboards at your feet. So who's that? That was Steo and...
Effie.
Was anyone else? And Effie?
I, in my usual blunt way, will just look at the ground and kind of lean into Urfons and be like, ask him what the hell that is. Please.
Urfons looks up and says, yeah, I noticed that as well. He talks to the goblin chief for a couple of seconds and then turns and says, he says it's nothing and we shouldn't be concerned. Anyone who noticed the noise can make another vigilant roll at -3.
I am concerned, so no matter what this goblin says.
Nothing more concerning than being told
No.
you shouldn't be concerned.
Yeah.
Exactly, right?
No problem. Well, that was 2 failures there, so no, nothing else is noticed.
I got a 2. I made it.
Oh, did you make the initial vigilant roll? All
Yep.
right, okay.
I didn't think you did.
Okay.
What an idiot.
Then, you notice that the goblin woman is kind of stood slightly to one side. You notice that her hand is resting very gently on what appears to be a lever set into the ground.
If I look around,
Not gripped, not kind of you have in mind of you're not sure how this situation is going to go, so you rest your hand on like the pommel of your sword, not gripped to draw, but ready.
if I look around where we're stood, is there like a clear area?
You know what? Now you're cottoned onto it. You are absolutely all standing on a trapdoor.
Does anyone other than
and the weapons are scattered, have been placed on the ground just off the trapdoor.
I'm going to turn away from them so they can't see me and just whisper, "We're on a trapdoor."
Irfon's kind of his eyes kind of go for a second, and then says, "Then I think we should be very circumspect about what we say and do next."
He looks at Ephania in particular, who is about to like run a goblin through.
Well, the goods are there, or have we made their price, or are they going to dump us into the pit with whatever's beneath us?
I might just whisper, "Dump the armor as well."
Irfons turns and says a few words to Gabba Big Paw, who is looking very avariciously over all the weapons on the ground. Shares a brief glance with the goblin woman at his side and goes. Then turns to Irfons and says something, and Irfons goes, "Gabba Big Paw is very happy with our offering."
I notice the head shake? Would I interpret it as a head shake of "No, this is not enough," or "No, don't pull the lever"?
I don't think you could have the capacity to possibly know the secret set of signals of Gabba Big Paw.
I think
it's a very popular book, but
as well, because obviously Irfon's asked, "Is this enough?" And Gabba then shook his head to the woman. She's going to assume.
Yeah, sure. That is what happened, yes.
She's kind of absolutely going to assume that what's happening is that we're about to get dumped into a trap.
He did also make a kind of gesture.
He made a gesture. Okay, that's enough for her to not try and kill the goblin.
Maybe.
Sure.
Thumbs down.
And kind of the goblin woman looks over you all, and moments later, you can all notice that her hand is on the lever now. She kind of her hand leaves the lever, and kind of they delve into the depths of her robe as she stands there. Gabba sort of kind of hops off his throne and sort of waddles a bit down the pile of rocks, comes to the weapons, and is kind of poking through them, and picks up the axe and kind of is examining it carefully, and kind of with a big grin on his face, kind of swinging it round as a kind of mighty goblin, a new mighty goblin weapon for the king. It is definitely a wood axe, just a bargain basement thistlehold axe that more or less every household would have. Irfons kind of looks around a bit, speaks a bit at Gabba, and Gabba turns and goes, kind of barks something back and kind of waves his hand and says, and Irfons goes, we can go see the man.
Okay. I assume he's in the curtained chamber.
Irfons says he is. And the goblins kind of in front of that general area kind of part a little bit nervously and look back at the curtain.
Walk over to the probably not at all dangerous cat room.
Sure. Is everyone doing that? Everyone walking along?
I am going to try and remove myself from the trapdoor area as hastily as I can. Perhaps not so gently shoving past. Are we going past the goblin lady or Gabba?
Oh no. Entirely the opposite direction from her. Although
Shooting him a glare.
Although if you take notice of her, you are seeing that she's kind of slowly walking along behind you all. Not threateningly, just kind of quite calmly walking with a look of interest on her face.
Okay, I'm going to ask her if she'll lead us then.
Erfon's kind of looks and turns around and says it to her. She speaks back in a surprisingly kind of melodious voice, and Erfon shakes his head and says, she says she's merely curious about what we're going to do.
Look, I'm curious about what we're going to do as well.
I want to run my sword through these assholes, but...
Why? They've not done it. They've taken no more precautions than I would if I was dealing with a better armed, better trained, larger force coming in.
You would set a trap door?
I would set every trap known to Ambrian.
And for their next trap, they have a man behind a curtain.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things we bought with this trade is also a peace treaty. So let's look, we're going to have enough unspeakable horrors to fight, no doubt. When we get within a mile of that crown, we can do without 8 goblins on top of it.
So it's not a long walk to this curtained sort of off room. What are we doing when we're there, folks?
And Tom, this is probably a good chance where you're going to be able to at least bring some light to this man if there's any left.
And Tom, I think we all feel that you would be best served as this party's dangerous door opener.
He's the counselor.
Yeah, sure. I get what you mean. It was just.
It's fair. I was nominated back in Thistlehold as chief curtain opener of the party, so that's absolutely fair.
It's a prestigious title.
It's all I can be trusted with.
Did the church leave you with that much? Like that responsibility?
Anything that involves a curtain or a robe is Anton's ballpark.
But not a cloak.
No cloaks.
No cloaks.
That's Keller's business.
All cloaks go to the Keller. So,
with some trepidation, I will pull back the curtain.
Absolutely.
And see what is in the room before I step inside.
So, first off, this room is very small. It's about 3 paces wide and 3 paces deep. It's almost completely bare, apart from the kind of hide curtain covering where you are. And there's also like quite a large hole near the ceiling that kind of where stonework has fallen out, and that is also covered in hides. A hacked circle covers the moss-covered stone floor completely, filled with silvery dust. And the only other things in it, really of note, is on one side of the room, there's a pile of neatly stacked human bodies. And directly ahead of you on the far side of the room is a man in Ordo Magica robes, sat cross-legged against the wall, kind of leaned very close against it, working with kind of charcoal and chalk, scrawling things on the wall, like a huge design. He doesn't seem to be particularly artistically gifted, but even so, you all recognize a very large depiction that you would say is quite a standard kind of rudimentary design of kind of Prios ascendant, the glory of the blazing midday sun. But this version has been given kind of almost kind of facial features, which is unusual. Facial features drawing attention to a large set of sharpened fangs, and perhaps more disturbingly, 8 what appear to be white, ghost-like, spindly legs coming out from the sides of the sun.
Love to know what Anton thinks of this.
Anton is whispering under his breath a prayer to Prios and making that symbol to himself to ask for protection before he goes into this room.
I believe our homebrewed symbol was a kind of circular
Yeah.
gesture with 2 fingers. Yeah. I think it's safe to say that I presume the others of you are somewhat taken aback at this as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's weird, but I never believed in Prios in the first place.
Sure.
So...
But maybe the stacked human bodies as well, to a certain degree.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
got me.
There's nothing that disturbs Effie more than an uncleaved body in a room.
Exactly. Why is it whole?
Absolutely.
I will cough loudly to try and get his attention, distract him from his scribbling.
He jumps a little bit, kind of peeks round over his shoulder. You can see a kind of slightly wizened man in his maybe mid-40s, the kind of pinched face and kind of small pinched glasses of some kind of clerk maybe. And he peers over his shoulder and goes and turns back and carries on.
Are we all in the room, or is it just Anton? Sorry, by the way.
So far, everyone, I believe, has just stood at the doorway and no one has set foot in the room.
I'm kind of allowing Anton to take the lead here, but I'm staying on the outside, peering in.
Okay, I'll try and address him this time. My friends, myself and my companions have come a terribly long way to speak to a member of your order.
His shoulders kind of droop a little bit, and he kind of shuffles himself round to face you, still kind of sat cross-legged, and he's sort of fiddling gently with a piece of charcoal in one hand. And you notice he has several kind of very, very pronounced, noticeable tics that he keeps going to. He keeps kind of like glancing up, checking up on the ceiling every few seconds, and in the meantime he's sort of whistling soundlessly before he says, did he send you?
The Ordo Magica sensors.
No, Prios. Did Prios send you?
In a way, he did.
Has he left his mark on you too? You need his mark. If you do not have his mark, you will need it. It's the only way. It's the only way in this place. This place is forgotten. This place, he has never touched here, but now he is here, and he can choose you too. He can choose you too.
And you have this mark?
I have the mark. He's kind of hooded, but he's reaching at the back of his neck and kind of fiddling with something. And when his hands kind of come away, you can see that there's some kind of slight bodily fluid on them and maybe crumbs of a scab or something like that, which he kind of drops to the ground.
Well, Prios has been known to work in unusual ways in unusual places, and this is certainly an unusual place. May I see that mark? I don't believe I've seen one like that before.
He shrugs and kind of pulls his hood back and sort of gestures towards you. He seems quite pleased that you've asked to see the mark.
Well, I will sort of crouch down so I'm not sort of super intimidating, and I can sort of get a little bit closer to him and have a good look.
Okay. While you're about to do that, Ascarai, Theo, Ephanera, is there anything you're doing? Anything you're particularly looking at here? Are you kind of going into the chamber as well? Are you looking at those bodies? Are you examining anything more closely or doing anything?
I think I'm inspecting the bodies at the moment.
Sure.
If there's room for me in the tiny, tiny room.
Yeah, I mean, you could all fit in there. It'd just be a tight fit, you know. Yes. Can you give me a vigilant roll, please?
Yes. Just a flat one, yeah?
Yes, please.
Yes, it's a 4.
Okay. So there are 7 corpses literally just piled on top of each other. 5 of them are robed in Ordo Magica cloaks. 2 of them are dressed more like scouts, fortune hunters, pathfinders. They look grey and desiccated. You don't think you can get any more information out of them? Perhaps someone who knows more about Medicus could, though.
I will. So Anton's talking to Steele at the moment. To this creepy guy at the moment. So I'm gonna nod to Steele, and just kind of point to one of the bodies and just say, "Look, what do you make of this?"
Okay, so I'll kind of gesture for FNA to swap with me, because Steel is kind of wrapped and doesn't want to take up too much space, but is definitely up for taking a look at these these dead friends.
Ascarai, what are you doing while all this is going on?
I'd first look. Does this guy have any constraints on him? Is he tied to a?
No, not at all.
That's free. I think I'd probably go in and just look at his drawing without touching it.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, Anton, you kind of step closer and bend over to look. The back of his neck. You have Medicus. Give me a cunning roll as to what this looks like to you.
Okay. I make it.
Okay, this to you looks like a rather large animal bite, which is clearly not healing, right? But it's covered in dirt, and if his behaviour before is anything to go by, he's probably scraping the scabs off. So you're not sure if that's if that it's not healing is of significance beyond the fact that he's not letting it heal. But it certainly looks like a large, odd animal bite.
Your friend, your mark from Prios. When did you acquire it?
Days, weeks ago, maybe. I forget. Here, you have to. He roots around in his robes and brings out a small pile of what are very generically carved signs of Prios. Suns that people hang around their necks or tie around their wrists. You can get these in Thistlehold or Indaros for a shilling at most. Lots of people have them. He kind of passes them up to you one by one from a small pile he's made. All of them have been added to with bits of chalk, twigs. So each of them has 8 limbs, legs hanging off them. He passes you he kind of counts them out, one for each of you, including Erfon's. Says, "Yes, if you when." It isn't important. Here. He takes a book from within his robes and passes it up to you, like a kind of leather bound. It's something someone would have as a journal.
Okay. I will need some time to read this, friend.
He nods and says, You should take time. Take all the time for Prios. He will be your shining protector.
This I will just kind of quickly kind of lift my head up, and from the bodies, since me and Steve switch places anyway. I think he's looking at the bodies, and just ask him kind of gently. Can I just ask if if Price is your protector, how did you come to end up trapped in a goblin camp?
I'm not trapped.
Why
I am
haven't you
here.
left?
I am here in his temple. This is where Prios descended. This earth is blessed.
Does this earth have anything to do with the bodies? The greyness? It seems that if this earth is blessed, I'm assuming Prios's mark then is all the graying and decaying wildlife.
He seems quite upset at this notion, and he shakes his head and says, "The girl doesn't understand. The girl doesn't understand. She should not be here. She should not be here."
At this point, I'll sort of turn around and ask Effie just to gently step back a second from the conversation. Friend, I do not yet know your name. My name is Anton.
He sort of kind of stretches up into what would almost be kind of like, a proud standing position if he was standing, and kind of neatens his horribly bedraggled robes and says, "I am Tonsil, Ordo Magica clerk and chosen of Prios. And this has been most edifying, but I must return to my work." He's already kind of like fiddling a lot with the charcoal. Steo, can you give me a cunning roll? Oh no, a vigilant. No, a cunning roll. I was right first time. Can you give me a cunning roll, please?
Just flat?
Just flat.
Yes, I made it. Cunning's 11. I rolled again.
Okay. You've got a better look at these grey, desiccated bodies. They looked at first to you to be somewhat mummified. It's not that. During your time in the war, you saw a lot of effects of kind of dark magic of various kinds. And once you basically were involved in a small skirmish where one of the minor sorcerers that followed the dark necromantic lords carried out some kind of abomination of a spell on an unfortunate small squad of men who were trying to reach him and destroy him before he could do much more damage. You're not sure exactly what it did. You're not a member of the Ordo Magica. You're not an alchemist or any kind of follower of the natural sciences. But you do know that it looked exactly like this, or very similar to this, and you heard a Ordo Magica member who was assigned to your sort of battalion use the term "flash frozen." And even now, as you lean close to them, this must have been done presumably days, weeks ago. You can feel the cold on your face as you peer, and parts of it looks like, but it's not. It's when I say frozen. There's no ice. It looks dry and cold and drained. Each of them, their flesh withdrawn in. There's kind of almost like curling of the limbs. This looks like a horrific way to leave this world.
I will. You'll hear me at first. Like, I knew it, and I will step back from the bodies, slowly turning and picking up speed, and I will not stop until I have reached the gates of the compound.
Okay. In that case, I would say that it's probably about this point that Anton and Effenair realize that Ascarai has been standing in the center of the circle carved on the ground, staring at the images on the wall for about 5 minutes now without talking or acknowledging anyone else. Ascarai.
Uh-oh.
You stepped into the circle. you started kind of looking closer at this inscription on the wall, and then it seemed to you, just for a moment, that the eyes that Tonsil had scrawled on the wall on this heretical, bastardized image of Prios flicked in your direction. I'm going to describe a conversation you're having now. It is not a conversation using words. It is a conversation of images and thoughts flooding into your mind from outside, from an outside presence. For the ease of us doing this, I will act as if we're just talking with a voice, but interpret that as these are images flooding your mind, but easily comprehensible images, and by thinking you are able to reply.
Okay.
Why have you come to my circle?
Whose circle is this?
You stand in the circle of the great white spider.
I was just looking at a picture.
Yes, an image of me, a graven image, drawn by my disciple on the walls of the circle. Ascarai, is that a usual name for your kind? I have been long gone from the physical realm.
It is a normal name, I suppose.
Interesting. Well, my name is Zanatha.
What are you? A great white spider?
That is an oversimplification, but yes.
There are
I
clans.
am the daughter of the spider god, Oroke, mother to the spider king. And I have returned to your physical world, your forest, and I find myself curious, avaricious even. But I also find myself thwarted. Perhaps you can help me, you and your friends.
What is it that you need from us?
You do not know. There is a kind of a soft impression of a chuckle. And she says, there are so many things here that I'm sure will be precious to your kind, but only one to mine. Come to me in the hole tunneled in the earth. We will talk. We will talk of the gifts I can give you, the blessings I can grant to ensure your safety, and then we can talk of what you can do to bring me the vile water. You're out. And I'd say it's safe to say you probably are physically kind of, staggered by the sudden cease of contact.
I stumble backwards, kind of lean against the nearest wall.
It feels like more than magic what happened to you. You just had the sense that your mind was touched by the smallest, tiniest part of something much bigger and older than you.
He's not lying. There's something here.
That's right.
I'm to assume it's not Prios.
It is not. Perhaps the opposite.
Tonsil's head kind of whips round at this point, and he says, "Liar, heretic, Prios is here. Prios granted me his gift," and just launches himself at you.
You being Ascarai or me?
Ascarai. He is trying to hit you, but he can be restrained pretty easily. Is anyone going to attempt to restrain him? And Ascarai, you can do this as well. Sure, yeah, I think that's fine. Everyone just give me a strong roll. And it's a strong roll at like +2 as well, so cool. I'm sure Effanir is more or less entirely guaranteed to roll it.
Yeah, I get it. 16, I needed 17 with the +2.
Okay. 1.
Wow.
For Anton. Wow. Anton just steps in behind him and...
No one disrespects Prios.
You know what? With that 1, Anton, I will say you actually catch him before he ever even gets to Ascarai, and you just kind of you've got him in a bear hug, and you're not a powerful man, but you're taller than him, and he obviously has been barely eating and not taking care of himself whatsoever, and he's kind of wriggling in your grip, but you've got him.
I'll try and soothe him as I sort of gently restrain him and keep him away from Ascarai, and I will let him know that we will leave you be for now.
He kind of wriggles free of you, once it's clear. He's calming down a bit and says, "Go! This is blessed land. You should not be here. Prios will not choose you." As you kind of retreat out of the room, the goblin woman who's standing and kind of by the curtain this whole time kind of draws the curtain across and kind of peers at you all and sort of gives a low shrug and then wanders off. Erfons turns and says, "Well, I know that Stio isn't here to talk about this with us, but do we still want to trade him for the armor?"
No. I think he is, whatever he has been in contact with has enslaved his mind. He would be of little help to us, and seemingly he's happy where he is.
He would be a burden to us.
Erfons kind of says, "Well, let's go find Stio then. And when we do that, the changeling can tell us about this odd magic spell that ensorcelled him in there."
That sounds like a plan.
You wander outside. Stio, you said you were by the gatehouse to the enclosure. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm kind of on haunches, probably approaching back in control of myself, but I am not. I do not look like a well man. I have seen my own death.
Yeah, your PTSD is kicking in at this point. It's fair to say. So the 5 of you gather by that gatehouse. Erfons greets Stio with kind of a pat on the shoulder and says, "It seems that Ascarai had an epiphany himself, a vision of Prios. Isn't that right?"
Definitely not of Prios, but there's something that this man has been I don't know. He's been spoken to by some creature. I could somehow communicate with it from its drawing. It seemed to just reach out to me. But it described itself as a creature, maybe a god, coming back into this physical world. It mentioned there was the daughter of Aroke.
Effanir, Aroke is one of the gods frequently worshipped by the barbarian tribes. It is a spider god.
So I'll obviously just kind of turn. I was already looking at Ascarai, but even more intensely, kind of now. And just say, wait, did you just say Oroke?
That's right.
Just like so, obviously, like out of character, the barbarian tribe worships Oroke. Do they know it to be bit like a benevolent or a shitty god?
It kind of largely depends which tribe you are.
What about my tribe?
Probably not fond.
Okay. Well, there are some other barbarian tribes that worship this Oroke. My tribe does not. The Odaiva clan do not tarry with giant spiders. It's not a good sign. It's dangerous.
I think I remember when I was young, a tribe far to the north seemed to worship the spiders. They were, I don't know. I only heard of them as some of the wildest. And
I believe Ascarai is referring to, and this is maybe me pulling a reference from the core book out of my ass, but I think I'm right in that Ascarai is referring, and F&A will know this, to a tribe called the Sarkhan, who are, they're kind of the tribe you don't fuck with, even if you're already a member of another tribe. They're extremely warlike, and yes, they definitely revere Oroke.
this is, I think she said she was being thwarted by something upon her return to this world, this plane, and she wanted our help, but she said she had a lot to offer us and only needed a vial.
The term she used was the vile water. And being as it's not in words, I can clarify the spelling. Vile as in Vile.
Okay. She needed vial. The vile water was what she said to, I don't know, overcome whatever it was that was stopping her or I don't know, causing her problems.
Well, I vote that we find out whatever the vile water is and we keep it from her grasp, because if she actually fully manages to ascend to this plane, no good will come of it. I imagine it will also stir great wars between the barbarian tribes. I cannot stress enough how much we need to not agree. We've seen what she's done to this agent of Prios, and I wouldn't put it past her to be the one that's causing the desiccation of the land either. It seems no coincidence. Also, I don't know, I'm just throwing ideas out there. Could the vile water possibly be related to that odd water that my sword's owner was trying to get?
I mean, in that was also some kind of fluid, maybe, but you'd certainly know of no kind of inherent connection between the two. I mean, the stuff that was at Jackad's heart was definitely not vile in any way.
No, it was very
Tom's
good.
been using it for healing, so
cool.
Might be vile to this demigod, but this is either a trap or a distraction or both. This is not why we are here. I cannot see good coming of this.
But if he was, if Tonsil was in the original group that was sent to the ruins, then...
Well, was he? Maybe there is only one way to find out, Anton.
I'm so confused.
No, I'm talking to Anton because Anton has the journal.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Don't ever doubt me again.
I mean, I'll try not to, but if you could remember your own goblin characters, you know.
Cut down.
Well, now I know which NPC is going to put F&A down. So,
Earthon's just going to straight up kill F.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll. It's daylight. I want to start reading this while I can. I guess if the goblins are okay with me staying here to do that, that would be fine. And I guess then leaves everyone else to do what they want to do. It's going to take me a while to work my way through this.
I mean, the goblins don't seem to be concerned with you being in this enclosure as long as you're not in the actual keep, not in the tower, you know. So it's you can do that here if you wish. I mean, do you want to open the journal and just have a flick through it to see what kind of prospect it is? Yeah. It seems to mostly be a kind of humdrum clerk's journal. And really, as you go through it, I mean, a lot of it is not even to do with this expedition. It's from, earlier in the year. And as you get towards the end, you sort of start to see kind of lists of preparation and stuff for going on the expedition. And then as you get to the end, you fairly quickly find the place at which bad stuff started to happen. And you'd say there are only about 4 pages to read through that. And you know what? Folks? Well, I say this, but now I'm not so sure that it'll be readable on the screen. But let's see, because I'm like, there's 4 pages and there's 4 players here, right? So rather than have like me just read out 4 pages, why don't we maybe try and have people read out the pages? How does that sound?
Sure.
Like a page each? So flash up the first one, John, and we'll see how readable it is. Is that readable for people? It's probably not, right?
No, I can see that.
Yeah, that's okay.
You can see that? That's okay? Okay, great. Thank you, John. Lovely. And there's that drawing above is the keep. And that's what the keep looks like. So for this first page, why don't we take... You know what? I'd quite like Anton to take the last page. So you know what? For this first page, Elle, why don't you take this first page?
Didn't F&A say she couldn't read?
Yeah, it's not F&A reading it, it's Elle reading it.
Yes,
just for the fun of everyone reading a page.
Okay. Just like the scouts foretold, we found the overgrown ruins satisfactory and established our base camp there. During the hike from the outpost, we had to be ever diligent, hacking a path through the dense greenery which rules the area. Everyone took to the knife to help clearing out the ruined keep. Outside, we left everything untouched, hoping to mask our presence. Who knows what famished creatures lurk hereabout?
Absolutely. So we're good for the second page, please, John. Once that comes up, I'm trying to actually access them here on my end as well. If you give me a mere moment. Okay, let's have Chris take that one if you're all right with that.
At the morning assembly, Magister Sienna told us that she had established a circle here at the keep and completed a first report to Thistlehold. I noticed that others beside me find this reassuring, even if all of us know that the feeling of security was an illusion. We were a long way from safety, and the circle will not save us if threats arrive. But we can get advice, and that is a very precious thing in an exposed situation like ours. The investigation of the ruins has afforded both joy and some exasperation. Our scouts have located the tomb from which the plunderer Gorak stole his tainted artifact. The ancient writings on the mausoleum indicate that it contains the remains of a person of stature, likely one of the local kings who ruled the area during Symbaroum's early days. That the tomb has already been breached is evident, but hopefully the robbers did not manage to empty it or destroy it completely.
And as all of you have spent time in kind of the north of Ambria and sometime in Davokar, you can definitely recognize that that illustration or script underneath it is Symbaric script, some kind of copying from some artifact here, perhaps. Sam, do you want to run us through this one?
Okay. After mapping the whole area, Magister Sania found the two most promising. She also warned us about the sinkhole. This is hardly necessary since we all know that 2 patrols have vanished in its vicinity, but it demonstrates the greatness of her heart and her care for all members of the expedition. The mutterings and curses of the scouts and servants are evidently misdirected. Magister Sania is far from a cold-hearted slave driver, and the ruins much more than some overgrown meat grinder. On another note, the scouts have reported seeing streaks of greyish black death spreading throughout the area, radiating out from the sinkhole if the reports are correct. What this is, and if it will affect our work, is hard to know, but very easy to have nightmares about. Magister Sania has ordered the whole expedition to start preparing for entering the mausoleum, and she has deciphered the text on the entry vault, hunting for clues as to what awaits us inside. If the streaks of dead nature keeps spreading, our time here may soon come to its end, so we have every reason to hurry.
Thank you. And the final one from Mike, please.
The ground quivers in pain, screams echo through the ruin. I dare not go outside. A deeper kind of darkness roams the night. I am nearly paralyzed. The cold eats at my soul. By Prios, the darkness is bleeding through the walls. From the heavens a light, like a descending sun of simmering limbs, she embraces me. The Savior is here. Prios be praised.
And this is the tomb we're headed to, right?
Erfons kind of stands up and kind of leans on his sword, nods somewhat kind of sagely and says, well, fuck.
I'm with you on that. I knew that the other barbarian clan, I knew they worshipped this spider god, but I didn't actually think it would exist. This is...
I mean,
We're being
you said that this creature that spoke to you, Ascarai, she said she was the daughter of this Aroke,
Yeah.
yes?
That's what she said.
Look, one thing stands out for me there. This man, he was afraid of the darkness. And then he said this, whatever she is, brought light.
So it could be either 2 separate forces we're dealing with, or this creature herself could create the darkness and then lure people in with her saving grace.
From what I understood, it's hard to be certain, but I think she tried to indicate that she was from or in or near the sinkhole rather than the tomb. But it's possible there are...
She definitely asked you to come talk to her in the sunken hole in the earth. Which sounds like a sinkhole.
It's possible there are 2 things, yeah, and I don't know.
That also confirms that the lines of death and decay have emanated from the sinkhole.
Erfons asks to look at the map again, which I believe has scrawled the lines of thing. He turns to Steo and says, you were saying that they don't. I don't think it does confirm that these come from the sinkhole. It confirms that they thought they did. But from what we saw, they didn't. Didn't you work it out? He points at Steo.
That's Ambrian necromancy. That's It's the Flash Freeze. The Dark Lords in the south.
We're a long way from Ambria, Steo. Dark magics are dark magics. They're not here. This is
Forest.
Davakar. Let me assure you. I sound as though I am reassuring you, Steo, but trust me, there are worse things than your Dark Lords here in Davakar. But we knew that before we arrived. You have your armor and you have your steel.
It does confirm that these streaks of death were already passing through the land before they entered the tomb, seemingly.
I
I
vote.
remain
No, okay.
I remain unchanged in my view that we avoid the sinkhole and we investigate the tomb first.
And I stand by Steo's original plan, which he may have adjusted now. I think we need to investigate everything we can before we address the tomb. All we know, something spoke to Askarai and said things to him. Yes, it is worrying that something could do that. We do not know for certain what lies out there. All we have are the words and scribbles of a madman and the visions in the changeling's head. I say we go look at this sinkhole. If there is nothing there for us, then we proceed to the tomb.
What I would say is that whatever this was, from what it said to me, it didn't sound, I guess, aggressive or...
It almost sounded like it said it wanted our help.
Exactly. It wasn't threatening or... it seemed relatively calm in what it said to me, and that it
Look,
could offer help.
Suppose.
Look,
For all we know.
seniority in the agency counts for nothing out here. I am just one of you. For what it's worth, that is my vote.
I also, at first, I would have avoided the sinkhole, but with the journal, I now believe that there are two forces at play here. I believe that whatever caused Tonsil to lose his wits was something different, and he has latched on to this daughter, but the madness was already there. So I'm very wary, but we should see what is going on there.
Erfons nods and says, Askarai, Steo?
I can't help but be drawn to the sinkhole.
Maybe we could talk to Mahler, see if there's... Surely they must know how the crown relates to this.
Are you sure you are not simply trying to...
You shut the fuck up, you halfling.
If we go back, that's another day gone. To me, it seems as though these people all died when they tried to enter the tomb. The tomb seems the most dangerous option we could go for at the moment. And I think we should not waste this day simply going back to talk to Marla.
I think regardless, as I say, seniority doesn't count for much, but it seems to me that three of us are for the sinkhole.
I'll like kind of put my hand on Steele's shoulder and say, look, we've been through a lot before, and you know I've got your back. I believe that we can do this as long as we're together. Friendship. Obviously, she didn't say that last bit.
Irfan turns and looks up at Steo and says, "Are you with us?"
Better with you than alone.
He nods. That seems to be good enough for him, and turns to the southwest and starts walking. The journey takes maybe an hour and a half through the thick forest, again with the occasional patch of desolation and greyed, lifeless, drawn vegetation, before you emerge into a kind of a largest clearing, but almost the entirety of the clearing is occupied with this great delving hole into the earth. As you look around the rim of it, you can see that parts of it are still, you see bits crumbling every here and there. This is not a settled occurrence. This is not something that's been here for a long time. It's about 100 paces across, a little over that deep. And as you look down, you see a number of things. You see scattered rocks and soil. You see kind of rough places where perhaps a pathway can be found downwards. And you see, as the sun is, it's not going down yet, but it's certainly descending from its zenith in the early afternoon. You see a kind of gathering darkness as the shadows from the rim on the opposite side of the sinkhole are cast deep across it. And I think that's a good place to end for the session. So yeah, good stuff. Good.
I'm really glad we forgot to take
stuff.
that extra rope from the outpost.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah,
so thanks very much, as usual, to our players. Thanks very much to John, our stream manager, who always does a great job and did a great job tonight. Thanks to you for watching. Now, I've got the usual kind of like post-stream spiel stuff. But before we do that, if you've got any comments or questions that you want to sling our way, feel free to write them in chat, and John will pull them out and pop them up here for us to answer for you. Doesn't have to be to do with this session or with Symbaroum, anything. But while you do that, we've got promo stuff to do. There's loads of links below. We've got our social media, which is usually Telling Tales RP, but check if unsure. We have a link to our YouTube where all our VODs are stored. If this is your first time watching us, hey, you can watch right back from the beginning and watch all that good stuff. There's a link to our Patreon if you feel like supporting us, or you can subscribe to us here on Twitch. We'd be very grateful about that. And also, we have another series that runs every Tuesday night. Starts at the same time, 8 o'clock GMT. That's Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. It's going great. Why not check that out? We've got other stuff coming towards the end of the month. This is a working date at the moment, so don't hold me to it. But we should be starting our 3rd series on Mondays of a Call of Cthulhu series. Call of Cthulhu series, which will be the first one that's not GM by me. So if you've enjoyed everything about this but me, then that might be the series for you. We've also got, we're starting monthly one-offs, kind of single session stories on Saturdays. Again, monthly Saturdays, not every week. And the first one of those is provisionally coming on February the 6th. And it'll be a nice longer thing on a Saturday afternoon, or at least a Saturday afternoon if you're GMT. And that will be Alien, the RPG from Fria Ligan that's set, unsurprisingly, in the franchise of Alien/Aliens/Alien 3. That's all the Alien films. I named them all. There's no others.
So we're not setting it in Alien versus Predator?
We're definitely not. No.
Is there a
yeah.
core book? Is there an expansion book I could buy you to help you make that dream become a reality?
Not yet, but when it comes out, I'm sure it'll be big enough that I can beat you to death with it. So, yeah, that's all my spiel. I think we also had a follow, a Twitch follow during this from Karth. Thank you, Karth. We very much appreciate that. John, is there anything to be popping up in the old question you do? Excellently creepy. Thank you. That's what I do, and in the role play. One from Mike. Can I get off this wild ride? You know you knew you were in for life on this wild ride the moment you met me, baby. No.
Follow-up question: can you never say that ever again?
That's also a no. Baby.
I really want to. I want to go to. If I could somehow beam myself into all of the times this scenario has been run, I want to go and live in this scenario where the party went, okay, so we need to go to the sinkhole in the temple. We'll split the party. You two go that way. We'll go this way.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, like it's odd. I think so far this is maybe the story I'm changing least out of all the ones I've run. And I was expecting to change it quite a lot because of the nature of adventure landscapes and how I sometimes find them a bit fiddly and I try and like do stuff. But no, not so far.
We're doing what we're supposed to.
Yeah, more or less as I'd anticipated, I think, which is good. So well done on being predictable.
I mean, I almost slew all of the goblins.
Yeah, that could have gone very differently. Yeah. So that could have been fun, especially if the goblin chief had managed to rancor you.
Yeah. That was the word I was looking for. Rancor.
Yeah. Rancor is definitely a verb. So unless there's any other questions or comments. That'll be it. So thank you for watching us, folks, whether you did it on Twitch or YouTube. Take care of yourselves out there. Stay safe on, again, this perfectly normal Wednesday where nothing interesting or important is happening. And we'll see you next week for more Symbaroum next Wednesday, 8 o'clock GMT. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.